Ladies and gentlemen, today is April 30th, 2013, and this is the KNKL Show, episode 81, where we learn to be better artists. I am your host, Keenan Lafferty, and today we are going to be doing a tutorial on using gradient maps, right? A quick way to lay out your backgrounds in values of black and white, and then quickly chuck some color on there so you can quickly establish mood, feelings, and all those other good things. But before we get into that, I need to take you down to a place called Twitterland because I haven't been talking about this in a while. For those of you not following me on Twitter, please do so because I won't spam you too much when I'm eating bean burritos or ordering tacos at Del Taco. Although I probably should because that seems like that's what everybody else does on here. But I will update you when I'm uploading new videos to YouTube and when certain special events are happening, such as the release of part 2 of issue 2 of Emma, which just came out today, midnight last night, today. And yes, if you guys have not come down there or gone down there and checked out the latest 9 pages of the issue, be sure to go down there and check it out because you're in for a special treat, right? And yeah, just wanted to throw that out there, and you guys go do that. Now we're going to go ahead and take a stroll down lovely lane because we got some new submissions coming in from the lovely peeps. Thank you once again to everyone who has been submitting your artwork to the KNKL Facebook page, and I would urge you to continue doing so because it makes my day oh so happy when I see things like this and whatnot. Alrighty peoples, with all that out of the way, we're going to move into the tutorial. So let's go ahead and bust out our tablets. Oh shoot, I did not test to see if the drivers were working, and I do not know where my stylus is. There it is. We're always prepared here. We're always prepared here on the show for anything. We're prepared for anything, even drivers not working. Well, how about that? Let's go ahead and reopen this. Excellent. Hey, while we're doing this, this is a great time for me to say this is the last day of the month, and I wanted to say thank you to everyone who has been donating and helping to support, keep the site and the business running. It really means a lot, and we are going to be, like I said, I'm going to be doing new pictures each week, and we're actually going to be changing it. You know, I'm probably going to run it like tomorrow and the next day just because I need some extra time to make the new picture. And I'm going to be calling it monthly thank you pictures. So, yeah, I get to do fan art, and it's mostly going to be Emma and all that good stuff. But, yeah, you can get your name on the thank you picture if you just simply donate or do something awesome for the site. So, yeah, keep that in mind. Keep it in mind. All right, we are good to go. So, where were we before we rudely got interrupted by drivers not working? Let's go ahead and get back into what we were doing. Okay, so the first thing we're going to be talking about today, guys, is how to start laying out your backgrounds and using gradient maps. And you can use them on all kinds of things, but I personally like to use them when I am doing the backgrounds for Emma. Right? And I'm going to show you really, really quickly how you can quickly establish a mood, and you can put together a scene, and all of the magical elements that go into creating a gradient map and what it can do for you. Okay, so that's the important thing. Gradient maps and you. Okay, so let's say you got your frame here, right? Now today I feel like drawing a beach. Let's draw a beach, okay? So what goes into a beach, right? Let's start with like some, start with a nice horizon line, right? Going down like this. It's good. Like that. It's a little bit laggy. Let's go ahead and actually make this smaller and zoom into it so that way it doesn't lag the computer like that. Because we don't like that. That makes us quite angry. Makes us quite angry when that happens. Alright, so let's just quickly establish our horizon line. And I'm using the chalk brush, for those of you who are curious. I don't know if it's a default brush that comes with Photoshop, but you are able to get your hands on it if you go to my DeviantArt page and you search for my brushes, my custom brushes. It should be like a little picture of Emma's face, and then you're able to download them from there. Alright, so we got a good general idea of our horizon line, just kind of throwing in, chucking in some values. Let's have like the general like gradation of the sky here. Gradation. Gamma gradation. I like it. That's my favorite. Okay, so we'll have like the sun over here. I like that. That little shape that happened right there. like this. We'll have the sun over here, or at least like the brightest spot. You'll notice that, and I said this last time I was talking about laying down values for your backgrounds, is as the sky tends to go more towards the horizon, even towards the daytime, it tends to actually get lighter and lighter and lighter. It'll go from like a blue to kind of like a tealish, almost like a green towards the bottom of it. And the sun doesn't necessarily have to be there. So that's always just a good kind of rule of thumb when you're drawing, you know, skies. Just always have it so it goes darker towards the top and lighter towards the horizon. And the reason why it does this is most likely because of the atmosphere, right? There's more atmosphere the further away you're looking, right? So it's going to make it brighter, and it's going to make it seem much lighter. Because as we've learned so far with drawing backgrounds, things further in the distance get knocked back, right? They get knocked back. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and just start throwing in some things here. We're really going to be working fairly simple today because we're not focusing so much on the background, we're focusing more on mood setting. Yes, getting in the right mood of your background. Okay, so let's go ahead and draw the sandy area here. I'll kind of have this going through here. Also thinking about composition, of course. Must be thinking about your composition. Let's go ahead and do that. That looks good. And let's draw like the edge of the wave. The edge of the wave's kind of coming across like this. That looks good. Kind of that sea foam that happens. All the sand crabs kicking it up. Sand crab foam, whatever you want to call it. And that is going to go into the distance there. Let's draw a couple more little waves happening this way. And I'm liking that. Liking it. Let's have a nice bright spot right over here. Because the sand is going to be kind of getting blown out, right? I really like those pictures of the beach where the sand is almost like white, and then the shadows, like if there's any like an umbrella or something, it kind of casts like a blue shadow. I really like stuff like that. It's very cool, very cool. Okay, so we're continuing here. And let's put some darker segments in this area. Good, good. And then let's fade it out as it goes into the background. Way back here. Let's go ahead and throw in some clouds. Gotta love them clouds. And you'll notice how I'm painting the clouds almost by just drawing in the white. Draw where the light is hitting the clouds, hitting your clouds, and you will create them. And again, another little trick is as you get closer to the horizon, I like to make the details smaller and smaller and smaller, right? So as the clouds are closer to you, they'll appear huge. You get these big plumes of clouds that will be close to you, right? Like this. But then as you go farther back, you want to kind of stretch them out, make them smaller. This will help also to give you a good sense of depth. This is helping your eye, helping your eyes. Not that you're blind or that you need a seeing eye dog, but every little bit helps. Some people may, you never know. I mean, I can't complain. I like dogs. I like cute dogs. Why not? Seeing eye corgi. Yeah, you ever think about that? Seeing eye corgis. Maybe that's what we'll draw next week. I can see that. Alright, not worrying too much about the detail. I'm thinking the sun is going to be coming kind of from behind us. Like if we're looking here, the sun is going to be kind of up in the air above our heads. Okay? So if I was standing on the beach right there, I would be pointing and the sun's over that way. But still, naturally, we'll see all of these reflections in the water from the atmosphere, right? Little speculators will happen. And similar to the clouds, as they get further back, they'll get smaller. And as they come closer to us, they'll be more prominent. Like this. More prominent and large. We'll head on back. Let's go ahead and make this a nice clean horizon there. There we go. And this island over here will have some, you know, like little, I don't know, just put some noise in there so it looks like houses or something. Some civilization over there. Love it! And since the sun is shining that way, we're going to have some lights hitting the buildings as well. But not too much. Not too much. Don't want to grab too much attention. Alright. I like this. I'm painting you a beautiful picture. Painting you a beautiful picture of the beach that I would love to walk on with you. All of you. So romantically. Expressing my love for you for reading my comic. Expressing my undying love. Alright, that looks good. Again, let's try not to get too caught up in the details. I want it to look good, but I'm not trying too hard. Trust in the force of the artist. Remember? Force of the artist. Okay. I'm very quickly going to put a little bit of cast shadows happening down here. That looks good. Okay. Got some general good things happening over here. Maybe we'll make this into a little bit more of a wave happening. I like that. Kind of picking that up a little bit. Put some subsurface in there. Yeah, there we go. There you go. Yeah. Alright. And since the sun is coming from this way, we need to put some more lights over here. More lights on the clouds. Like it. Like it. Okay, now the last thing I do want to do is I want to put a little bit more life in here, right? So let's have like some boats in the distance. Let's have some like people over here. Some dudes like over here, way back here. Let's have like some guy's yacht, some expensive power yacht. All that good stuff. Put some little things out here, like some buoy. Let's put a buoy out here. Why not? Safety buoy for the seagulls to land on. I don't know if that's what a buoy looks like, but now it does. That's what a buoy looks like. There you go. And then way back here, we'll put like a, I don't know, like an oil rig or something. There we go. Alright, so I'm liking that. I'm liking that a lot. Let's go ahead and duplicate the background so we can work with like that light gray that's behind here, because we're going to start laying down the gradients. Okay? And what I did right there by doing that was basically, like if I turn the background black, it still keeps the what's behind, because usually I duplicate the layer up and then I create a new layer over the background, right? Because I don't like to work directly on the background. So what I just did there was I basically just duplicated up and then merged it, so that it keeps the same grays that I had there. I hope that made sense. It didn't sound like it, but you can just rewind and watch me. Watch what I do again. Alrighty, people. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to brightness and contrast. I'm going to adjust this just a tad bit and get a little more contrast in here. Figure out what we want. Just a slight little change. And there, some good balance between our darks and our lights. Now we're going to start laying in our gradient maps. This is where the lesson comes in handy, ladies and gentlemen. So after you have your background and your basic layout of what you want to see value-wise, now what we're going to do is we're going to start throwing on colors that will give us instant reads on mood and yeah, just the way you want to feel when you look at the picture. Okay, so here's what you do. You go to Layer, then you go to New Adjustment Layer, and then you click the magical button. The magical option called Gradient Map. And you hit, you can call this just Color Map, and hit OK. And then you'll probably be prompted with something like this. Now check this out, ladies and gentlemen, because this is where the drama is. The drama is in the details. What you got to do is you have to click this button to open up your Gradient Map Selector. Now what's really cool is down on these little bars down here, you basically get to tell the computer, hey, all of the colors that are getting closer to dark gray and black, I want to be this color, right? So let's say that I picked kind of like this bluish, right? Let's pick this blue really quick. Hit OK. And we'll just use that for right now. In fact, let me put a mask on this really quick, because I don't want it to affect everything outside of it. I just want it to affect the picture. So let's go ahead and select everything outside and paint it black. There we go. Okay, now it's only affecting that one area. Okay, so what's cool, ladies and gentlemen, is you notice how we just did that? We can go back to our color pickers by basically clicking this little thing right over here, I think. Or maybe it's this. Yeah, this thing. Click the little Pokeball looking thing. And then you go over here and we can go back and select our colors. Now let's say, and usually I like to move things over. I'm just kind of doing this so you can see what I'm talking about. So I'll move these things over now. Since now you know what I'm fiddling around with. So let's go ahead and pick what our white color is going to be. Let's go like a teal kind of blue, like this, right? Let's go for like a teal, almost like a greenish, like that. That's looking pretty good. But I actually want the picture to be even brighter. So what I'm going to do, here, let me show you what I just did again. And what's really cool is after you pick these colors, you can move these sliders around and it will start to affect your picture, right? It'll start to affect the picture. Like this basically means, okay, more of this blue is going to overtake the gray. And then when you move it over to the side, it's like, okay, there's going to be more of a difference between this color and this color. And what's really cool is you can move this color over and you can just drop in another one. You click there, it'll automatically drop in another one. Let's say I wanted to go to like this bright yellow, right? And what's really cool is when you do this, it allows the computer, basically you're making the computer do all of the work for you. And I've talked about this before and how awesome this can be. All right? So I want the background, like I'm looking for this right here. Basically exactly what's happening right here, I like that with the sky. And now what you're going to do is you're going to start moving your little sliders around until you get to something that you like. So let's say, let's put in a little bit more like this aqua color. A little bit more of the aqua. There we go. There we go. Now I can start to see a little bit more of the picture. And something generally that I like to do is I like to make the shadows kind of a little bit more desaturated. So I'll go to this and then I'll kind of like do one of these things. It just makes it a little bit softer on the eyes. I don't know if you guys saw that, but going from this, which kind of looks, it's kind of weird, and all you do is desaturate it, it's like, oh, okay, well, that's kind of cool. Yeah, I like that. So generally I like to desaturate colors as they go to the shadows most of the time, because if you need to add in more saturation and all that stuff, you can always do that later. So let's go ahead and continue. I actually want something a little bit more like this. I'm going to push it a little bit more green. Slightly more green. Maybe a little bit more blue. Blue. Yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad. What about this here? What am I looking for from this? Do I want it to be more like purple? No, I think this is right. Yeah, that's looking good. Okay, so as you'll notice, like, let's say we leave it like that. Very quickly, you can look at this picture now and say, ooh, hey, that's cool, but it's all blue, right? So now what you're going to do is you're going to start going into your overpaint layers. Paint, or O-ain't, whatever you want. And now what's really cool is that now that you've laid all this down, now you can just start adding colors and see how it affects the piece, right? And I really like doing my backgrounds for the comic this way because I'm really big on setting a mood quickly, and I want to know what that mood is going to be really, really quickly, like off the bat. So it wouldn't make sense for me to try to paint this, like actually get this blue and then be like, oh, that would look cool if this blue like faded into this one. And the sky was kind of turquoise and it faded to like this really bright yellow. You see what I'm talking about? It allows you to do your quick experiments during the beginning, and you don't have to worry as much about selecting the right color and doing all those things. You can have a little bit more fun with it. And we like having fun. Having fun! So now what I'm doing, you can see here, is I'm adding in a little bit more of like these complementary colors, right? There's a plentiful amount of cool colors here, right? So let's naturally start adding in some sand colors. Let's add in like that nice dry, kind of almost white sand on the edges here. Push that to yellow. Get some of that stuff going on there. And then that'll naturally gradate to the wet sand, which is over here, right? And then you want to think about, these are sometimes things that you'll want to think about when you are, like, sometimes I really like to look at reference, right? Obviously, I think it's always a good idea to look at reference. It's always going to make your pieces turn out a lot better. But you know how the sand turns darker when the water kind of washes over it, right? But also it becomes wet, right? And then it will reflect, it will become more reflective, and you'll be able to see like the sky in it, right? At certain angles. So I think that's another good thing to keep in mind. So I'm going to kind of like play that up, kind of mess around with that a little bit here. Add in a little bit more of that. And then you also want to think about your ambient occlusion, which is basically all of your shadows will take on a blue tint because of the sky, right? The shadows are being cast, but then all of the sky, the blue of the sky is basically going to be invading those shadows and turning them blue. Which is awesome. And that is known as ambient occlusion. Yes. That makes us all very happy. Yes. Okay, so I'm going to do a little bit more like reflective sand over here. Some of that stuff going on. You can quickly see, wow, we're really getting somewhere. We're getting some stuff down. Starting to feel the mood of this. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and start adding in a little bit more of like a turquoise to this water. And I think this is really where the character of the piece starts to come into play. Is almost, you want to think about it in terms of, at least when I'm doing the comic, I think about, okay, well, what's the most prominent thing that's happening throughout this piece? Is it the water and the sky? And I want to figure out the gradients of the blues in that. Because you'll notice I didn't make the gradient map according to the sand, right? Because that's such a small part of it, and that's more complementary. You want to think about the wide encompassing thing of the picture. What's the main thing? And usually it's probably going to be the sky. The sky is the biggest benefactor, could you say that? The biggest factor in creating the feel of your piece, or just the main light source. In this case, it is the sky. The sky. I'm going to go ahead and fade this out as it goes back here. Now I can start to see a little bit more of this character coming in. I'm really liking that. And then when in doubt, I don't know what it is about it, but whenever you make a gradient map and you have all of these like saturated colors, it always looks good to throw in gray in just like random areas and see how it affects it. And because of the color relativity, it's going to start just balancing the picture out, and it's going to start looking really, really nice to you. Like you'll notice I'm working in gray over here, but it looks almost red. It looks almost like a reddish tone to it. And that's because of the relativity between the blue and the green right next to this. It's creating that look, that illusion. That illusion of the water. And I like this right here. What just happened right here? And then you'll run into like these little happy accidents, you know, like little designs that you like. And you kind of preserve those. Preserve them. Make them yours. I'm going to go ahead and mess with the sea foam a little bit more. Add in a little slightly different hue there. And that's looking good. And that's basically how you do it, ladies and gentlemen. That's how you start laying it in. That's how you do it. That's how you do it. I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more saturation to this water, particularly back in this area. Give it some nice deep blues in there. And again, I want to stress the fact that, you know, the gradient map is just that quick way for you to get that quick feeling and then start adding colors on top of it, as opposed to feeling like, oh, I want to draw this entire thing, I want to draw this huge portrait of the beach, and then you start with, you know, blues, and you start like trying to figure out all of these things, and which is basically the way that I used to do it, and it just became so frustrating. It became so frustrating to do all that stuff, and I didn't like it. So naturally, I decided not to do it anymore. I was introduced to this awesome technique by when I was working at Riot. One of the artists there, he used this to quickly start laying in colors on characters and backgrounds and all that stuff. And I was like, dang, I never thought of that before. I never even knew that that tool existed. That's awesome. And then I promptly stole it. I stole his technique. I stole his technique and put it into practice for myself. Alright, so let's go ahead and knock this whole thing back a little bit more. And you can just grab the atmosphere or whatever this is, and you can start just kind of overlaying. It's going to push stuff further back into the distance. You see what that's doing? There. We like that. We like that oh so much. Let's go ahead and put some little things over here, some little shines on the water coming through there. And yeah, I hope you guys understand that, you know, I'm doing this without photo reference. You know, if you do this with photo reference, it'll come out even better, because then you can look at it and be like, oh, okay, well, obviously the shot that I'm looking for is going to encompass a lot of water, so let's focus on getting the gradient looking right for the water. And then I'll move into the sky and all that stuff and figure out how all that's going to work. But yeah, pictures always come out better when you use photo reference. So I would highly recommend doing that. But also, I just kind of wanted to show you, because most of the time you're not going to have exact photo reference. Sometimes you do have to make it up. Like when I am doing some backgrounds of Emma, sometimes the interior shots, I just have to like make up what this house is going to look like, and I just go for it. You know? And yeah, I actually like being able to do that. I think that there is it's a good practice to work from your imagination completely, you know, or just look at some photo reference and allow it to sort of fuel your mind. A big thing that I always like to do is, if I'm going to use reference for something, is I will look at it and then I'll put it away, right? Because then if you keep it up, you're going to be comparing it way too much. You know, if you're going to compare it, pull it up for another few seconds, look at it and be like, oh, okay, I need to do this, and then close it again. Let your mind translate it. Because oftentimes, you know, photos don't even capture the exact colors that you're looking for. I mean, they're good, but they're oftentimes not the exact colors that you're seeing in real life anyway. So sometimes it's good to just let your mind naturally create it. Let the force of the artist tell you what you need to do, not to tell you what you are searching for. Right now it's telling me to make these clouds less yellow and more white. So I'm going to do such a thing. Let's go ahead and make these clouds more white. There you go. Yes. I like it. Clouds, I think, are a big thing. Clouds are always one of those things that have always just left me in awe. I'm not the best at drawing clouds, but I can wing it. I can wing it and make it look like I know what I'm doing. Alright, now I want a little bit more blue in the sky as well. It's looking a little unnaturally teal. Let's get a little bit more of this in there. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Beautiful! Put a little bit more of this atmosphere. You notice what I'm doing there? Did you see what I just did? Going back to this, all I did was I took that blue, which is our atmosphere, put a little bit more of that on the water, and notice how it like pushes it even further back. Ever so subtly, but it does, in fact. All right, let's take care of the buoys over here. Drawing the buoy. Maybe a little seagull on top of it or something. There you go. Slight reflection on the water there. And then I'll teach you guys how I go about like sharpening an image. Like if this was for a comic, I'll show you what I would do to sharpen it up and kind of clean it up. So it looks even more finished, and it only takes a couple more minutes. It takes a couple minutes to do this, and it'll make your picture look a lot more finished, a lot more professional, and a lot of good stuff that you want to be associated with. Little tricks that I've learned can fool the mind into thinking that you did a lot more work than you actually did. It's also very, very good. Put a little bit more of this atmosphere in those shadows. Yeah, it's looking good. It's looking really good. Perfect! Let's put a little pier or something over here. I don't know. Something. Alrighty, peoples. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we started with, right? This is where we get the basic idea. This is how we just kind of put a wash of color over it. We're like, okay, I'm liking the feeling of this. I'm liking the mixture of the colors and the gradations that have been created by the computer. Because think about it. Normally it would be actually kind of hard to mix this color, which is like this green, with this teal, you know, and like perfectly graded it so it looks nice. You know, but the gradient map takes all of that work out of there for you and just does it. And then we went to the paint over layer, and now we are left with this, right? So now we're starting to add in the other flavor colors. What are the complements? Where did you mix in the grays, right? And use that theory of color relativity to your advantage. All of those good things. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna finish this up. And I'm going to show you guys how to add some cool kind of little touches to make your picture look a lot more clean and finished, right? And it's really not that much more work to do. So check this out. We're going to do one more layer, call it Paint Over Layer. And what I'm going to ask you to do is, if you have not downloaded the brushes off of DeviantArt, then simply get some sort of brush that has a hard edge. You can use the hard edge, like round circle brush, but I would recommend getting something that has a little bit of texture. Here, let me show you what this actually looks like. A little bit of texture, and I call this the Reptar brush because I don't know if you can see it, but it kind of looks like Reptar, you know? And something that will have some texture. See the texture in this? But it has a good, clean, hard edge. That's what we're looking for. We don't want none of this. None of these brushes. This ain't going to work. This is actually going to make your stuff look worse and less professional. You want a nice, hard edge brush with some cool texture, and I'll show you the magic that it can create for you. Okay, so now what you're going to do, guys, is you're going to start going in, and you're on a new layer above your paint over, right? One more layer, and now you're going to start adding in those final touches. Basically, all I'm doing now is I'm going through and I'm eyedropping stuff. I'm eyedropping, and I'm starting to lay in the colors. I'm basically like painting this one more time. But what I'm focusing on is, okay, let's see. Oh, I like this. I want to kind of take a little bit more of this kind of green tealish out. It looks a little weird to be on a cloud. So I'm going to kind of knock a little bit of that out of there. But I love this. I love what's happening here. So I'll eyedrop that, kind of draw in shapes, right? Because I think that the difference between something looking professional and finished and not is really just how clean are your edges. So use this to your advantage by just going through and just sharpening those edges. I'm grabbing the blue from out here, creating the edge there, right? Grabbing the white right there, creating the edge there, okay? Whoop. Continuing. Grabbing this blue, kind of painting that edge, grabbing that white. All that good stuff, right? Let's grab this white as well. Kind of paint these edges. Bring these in. So you see what I'm doing? Just going through here, sculpting edges. And you're going to be amazed when we zoom back out on this. I'm going to show you the differences. I'm going to compare it, and we're going to look at the differences. You're going to be like, whoa, it's awesome. Or you're going to be like, eh, whatever. And every now and then you'll do something and you'll look at it and be like this, I like that a lot. This is working really well. So sometimes I'll kind of go back in here, or if I want a soft brush and I kind of want to work a little bit of this color back into it, I'll just take the chalk brush, which is sort of like our soft brush, and just kind of work a little bit more of that into the clouds. Just because I like the relationship between these two colors, it feels very cloudy, it feels very light, better than this yellow. I don't like the yellow in the clouds. It looks a little bit weird. It's kind of polluted. So I'm going to go ahead and add that in, like a little bit of that. Like more of these blues that are happening throughout here. So I'm just kind of going, you know, taking it as I go. Taking it as I go. Maybe a little bit of orange, or orange, a little bit of that teal in there because I think it adds a little bit of flavor. I actually kind of like that. I like it there, but not down here. It just looks weird. Alright, going back over here, let's go ahead and continue. These areas I try not to like draw in stuff. I mean, you can. It'll like create a little bit of texture, but I try to kind of be really careful with the sky because you don't want to have like stuff like this, and you know, it's like it gets kind of overwhelming. You want to play in the areas where it's important to have sharp edges, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But sometimes you'll make shapes and you'll be like, oh, I kind of like that, and you'll just leave it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that relationship that I found over here between these two colors, and I'm going to start adding it a little bit more over here. Because I like it a lot. A lot, a lot, a lot. Let's go ahead and start cleaning up these edges there. Yeah. Yes, yes. And I'm just kind of cleaning up, trusting in the force, just going with it. Okay, that's good. Let's bring that right out there. Let's put a shadow underneath there. So we know how much I love these shadows now. Okay, that's good. Go ahead and do that. And you'll notice I'm not doing it all over everything. I'm focusing specifically on the corners, or the edges rather. Focusing specifically on the corners. Because all of this stuff, you can have all this noise on the inside of the cloud, but once it gets to the edge, you want to have it clean. Right? That will make your stuff look finished and awesome. Beautiful. Or at least I'm hoping. We're about to find out in a few minutes if this is actually going to work. But this is what I've been doing for the comic, and so far it's been serving me quite well. Quite well. Alright, let's go ahead and finish off this oil tanker. Liking that. Let's put some noise over there. Yeah, there we go. Again, edges, edges. That's all we care about. Edges. The edge of that seagull. The edge of that buoy thing. Does that look like a seagull? Hope so. It kind of looks more duck-like. There we go, that's a seagull. Good enough. There we go. Put a little bit. Sometimes I like to kind of grab like a lighter color and I'll kind of do like a little bit of a rim light around the area just to kind of help push that shape out even more. Those types of things. The water is going to be a really, really good prime spot for cleaning up edges. So let's go ahead and like do one of these things and kind of throw this in. Make that edge nice and clean. Kind of throw one of these in there. Kind of clean up these edges. And it just looks cool to have like little brush strokes throughout here. I think it adds attitude to the design, and it just looks really nice if you're working in this style specifically. And the style that we are working in is how to draw a background really quickly and have it look good style. This is not for photorealism. If you're looking for photorealism, that is going to be another daily, which I will probably not do because I don't like to draw photorealistic backgrounds. I like to do stylistic backgrounds. My mentality for doing stuff most of the time is like as far as you need to take it to tell the mood, right? Specifically with a background. As far as it needs to go to tell the mood, and then nothing more, right? And have it be clean and professional looking, of course, but you know, you don't need to worry about, ooh, hey, let's zoom in here and like paint that seagull with pixels, right? Make sure it all looks perfect, right? And you'll notice another thing is like the seagull's white, but I've painted him here with this blue, you know what I mean? And this all goes back to that color relativity thing. In fact, since the light is technically coming from over there, we need to actually go in here and give him some highlights. We need to actually paint him a little bit white. For the sake of consistency! So there you go. But again, I didn't paint him white, like straight up white, which actually I probably should have. I don't know. I guess you can. But I kind of like that because it makes it a little bit more subtle. I painted him more of the white color, or this yellow here. And that just goes into color relativity and all that stuff. And if it doesn't, then I'm saying it does. Saying it does because this is my style. It's the kingdom. The style of the kingdom. Alright, so I don't want to zoom out too far because I don't want you guys to get the full effect of this quite yet. So we're still working on sharpening the edges. In fact, how much time we got? 7:43! Alright, so we got about 10 more minutes, and then I'm going to ask you guys some questions out there. So make sure you get them ready. Write them down in your handy-dandy little notebooks, journals, whatever you got. I'll take whatever you got, and yeah, we'll answer some questions. Some questions. Yeah, until then, just going back through here, sharpening edges. Sharpening edges. Sharpening the yacht. The yacht of this guy. There we go, and this little buoy thing over here, whatever that is. I don't like this turquoise that's happening over here. I'm going to kind of reduce that. I'm finding that lately, like when you have like a really, really colorful picture, when in doubt, just try gray. Try gray on it, see what happens. Because what's interesting is the gray will naturally take on another color because of its properties. And then if gray doesn't work, then try a couple like slight different, you know, hues of it. Like that's looking much better. That's looking like the color that I want for the island. And really it just comes down to kind of eyeballing it, right? Like I can't tell you that, oh, what's the color of an island that's far off in the distance when you're painting a beach? I couldn't tell you that it's, oh, just take like the blue that you're using for the sky and then desaturate it to gray, and that's going to be the color of it. You can't necessarily do that. It's more like I'm picking the colors based off of relativity, right? I'm basing it off of the relativity to the blue sky. So I'll push it more gray, and by proxy, it's going to appear more warm. It's going to take on a warm property, even though we're still technically working with blue. You see what I'm saying there? Interesting, isn't it? Very interesting. So yeah, and I still don't know exactly what makes all that stuff work, what makes the color relativity and all that stuff work. All I know is that you just kind of trust your eye with what you see, and then just kind of go from there, right? Because it always works. Like your eyes won't lie to you, right? If two colors next to each other look good, then you should just use those two colors, right? And the reason why they're going to look good is because they look familiar. And if they look familiar, it's probably because you've seen them happen in real life before. You know what I'm saying? Totally obliterated the city that was back here, though, so we need to take care of that. Whilst preserving the beautiful sky. There we go. Put some buildings over here. Buildings over there. Little casino over thing. Maybe that's like Catalina. Yeah, that's Catalina Island. Yeah, why not? I'll have like a dock over here. Some more things over here. And all of that good stuff. And really, I want to challenge you guys to just really have fun. Really have fun with this. And don't be too afraid about picking the right colors, because as soon as you start worrying about all that, then you're not going to have fun, and you're probably not going to end up making a good product anyway. So you're just going to have to get used to working off of what you see. You have to trust in your eyes and basically be like, okay, well, I'm working with a cool color, right? And I want to have a nice contrasting color for this island. So I'm gonna basically just push it more towards gray, as opposed to island is green or island is brown, and then pick brown, right? Because see, this is what I usually do. I'd be like, okay, well, I want to paint an island, and it's brown, right? So let's go in here and just put that brown there, and it looks weird, right? It doesn't look right. So you must experiment and you must make mistakes, but don't feel bad about the mistakes. Mistakes are good. Mistakes are always good, and they will always work in your favor if you decide to learn from them. And don't give up. Don't give up. And again, like I said, I'm still learning about all this stuff, and I'm having fun. I'm having fun while I'm doing it. I love it. I absolutely love it. Alright guys, I think it's about time we pull this picture out and see how we did. See how we're doing, rather. I'm going to go ahead and add in a little bit more like noise here in the front. So like all these, you know, like how the foam makes all those cool little designs in the water. I want to capture some of those. And again, I don't have photo reference for this. I'm just kind of winging it. You know, let's be like, oh, let's make the little things kind of like round little shapes there. Just winging it, straight up winging. Letting the happy accidents happen. See, stuff like that. You know, just kind of having fun. And since it's a hard brush, it's like constantly. Well, that's the other thing I got to tell you about the hard brush. Make sure that your hard brush is also set to set so that it is only affected. The pen pressure only affects the size of it, not the opacity of it. Because if you do, like, say, this could technically be a hard brush if you press hard enough, right? But because the pen pressure is also controlling the opacity, it doesn't give you that same exact feel. What's happening with this is you're starting to chisel away the pieces of the picture, and you're starting to communicate more of it through shape, as I tried to communicate with words. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this, put in a little bit more of these things. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. And I think we're about ready. Put a little bit more of these cast shadows down here. Don't want to lose those. And I think that's pretty good. Alright, so let's go ahead and zoom out. Alright, so you can see here. Check it out, guys. Check out what we have done. Let's go ahead and look at what we had before. Let's zoom out. So this is what we had before. And now with the paint over chiseling out our shapes and everything, now we have this, right? So it's not that much more work, but you notice how it kind of like tightens up the picture in certain areas, and it gives the eye of the viewer an impression of, oh, hey, well, there's a lot of detail here, so that must mean that the rest of the picture is done too. You know what I mean? Or these edges up here are really clean, and everything, all the edges that I'm looking at are clean, so therefore this picture is complete, right? But it's actually not. You only took an extra like 15 minutes on it to take it from this to this, right? And it's almost like strategically picking out what places you're going to sharpen. Whereas like all this water in here is basically how we left it. You know, all these water and like all these little brushes are still really, really messy. But we've just strategically pulled out certain shapes and certain corners and edges. And we have left the reader in awe, or the viewer in awe. Reader if it's comic. Reader if it is a comic. Okay. That's pretty much it. I like to zoom out every now and then, just kind of like pull out and kind of clean up these little edges here and just kind of do a little bit more like broad edge cleaning. A bit more broad edges. And then if you have all kinds of like little funky textures or texture brushes like I do, you can go in here and like start throwing in the sand. Ooh, neat. And you can start doing these kinds of things. These are always fun to kind of play around with. Start doing those types of things. Whoop! That's a little much. You can start throwing in, you know, little textures here and there to get yourself what you're looking for. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So guys, I'm going to go ahead and open up the chat to your right to questions. Please ask any and all questions that you would like to hear back from me. Launch them over the catapults, or launch them over the catapults and the castle walls. You have catapults behind the catapults, and I will answer your questions. All right. Brian Hogan says that he renamed the Reptar brush as such, so he would not forget. Good, Brian Hogan. Good for you. That's a good student. In fact, I was actually thinking about renaming mine too. Because right now it's Aufgenommener Pincel 4.5. Which ain't bad, but it's a little confusing sometimes. Alright, so I'm just going to keep, while you guys are asking questions, if you ask any, I'm going to just go ahead and keep painting this for a couple more minutes, and then we will end episode 81 of the KNKL show. I'm actually wanting a little bit more saturation. A little bit more magical saturation in these waters. Yeah. Yeah! Oh, yeah, I like that. It's good stuff. Turtle with Guns is asking, what's an easy way to make noise on trees or jungle scenes? That is a great question. I'm not the best at those, but generally what I find works is getting some sort, either you get a leaf brush, like an actual leaf brush, and use that, or if you want, sometimes I kind of do the same thing. I do the same thing as I've shown right here, and I'll demonstrate that in just a sec. I want to try something. On the edge of the sand, I want to add a little bit more of this happening there. A little bit warmer colors. Ooh, yeah, I like that. Nice! Nice! Alright, so I'll show you a quick way to do noise for leaves and trees. I basically almost kind of do it the same way. Like, I would use the chalk brush, and let's say I want to draw a tree in the front here. Let's have like that foreground tree bush thing coming in here. Alright, so I'll draw like the branches like this, right? I'll draw on some branches. And then, naturally, I'll just be like, okay, well, you know, the leaves are just going to be coming off like this, right? And, oh wait, am I doing this on the right layer? Yes, I am. Okay, so I'll just do these kinds of things. I'll just start kind of laying out like where the general formations of leaves are as opposed to drawing them one by one. And then from that, I will start to sculpt out, because really I think of it more as shapes. You're seeing more shapes in life than you are like a bunch of leaves, right? So let's say you just draw in the shapes there. Let's go ahead and draw this tree back like that. And then if we're playing off the same type of light coming in, we're going to go ahead and draw in the color of these leaves, right? So again, you want to think about the shapes that are happening here, right? So you'll see like maybe like a patch of leaves like this, and you'll see a couple more down here, one here, one here, one here. And you'll start to see patterns emerging that look much like this. And just kind of play around with that. And then when I start kind of sculpting it back in, when I start doing like the cleanup, I'll basically do the same thing. I'll just kind of go in here, and then I'll draw in like the edges. Draw in the edges and draw in the edges of the leaves, right? This is where I start to go in and be like, okay, well, let's really define where the edges of these leaves are now. That's how I do it. I don't draw a lot of trees, so I'm sure there's a lot of other ways. I mean, my best idea for you is probably just to look for either you make a custom brush of a leaf, which you can do. I think I did a custom brush tutorial. If you search that, I think you can find it. Pretty sure you'll find it. If not, then there's plenty of other ones on YouTube, and you can basically find what you're looking for. Or you do it kind of this way, where you tell the story, you communicate the idea of leaves with shape. And I really like doing that more. I like telling stories and communicating what's going on in a picture with shape, because it's so much easier, and I really believe that the viewer's imagination always makes the picture perfect, right? If you try to like define everything, then there's nothing left to the imagination of the reader. But if you just give them just enough to get that feeling, and then you leave them there with it, they will complete the picture. And then not only is that less work for you, but again, in the mind of the viewer, it is always perfect. So yeah, that's how I'd go about doing something like that. Alrighty. And then, yeah, I just use the chalk brush if you want extra, you know, I just experiment with different kinds of texture brush. That's really where it's all at. Texture is the name of the game. I used to be against custom brushes, but not anymore. Not anymore. Now that's all I use. Love texture brushes. All right. People are asking about Thoughtful Thursday already. I'm flattered that you guys like listening to my thoughts on life, my philosophy and purpose for living. But I'm actually not sure what I want to talk about this Thursday, so can't tell you. I'll look up something in my journal. I'll have something good for you. All right. Ian Kabesh is asking, when making clouds, do you think it's better to start light and then add the darks, or the opposite? Ian, this is a great question. Personally, I think it highly depends on where your light source is. If your light source, say it's like a sunset, then obviously you're going to have a light sky. Like if for some reason, let's do a quick little experiment here. Let's take this entire thing and just really, really quickly duplicate it up. There we go. Let's duplicate this group. Duplicate that shiz. And let's go ahead and change this to like a sunset. If we can. Yeah, so maybe something kind of like that, right? Of course, not with blue sand, but you know what I'm saying. So say you had something like this, right? If you're doing a sunset and the light is behind your clouds, then obviously you're going to start by painting in darks, right? If the light was here, the light could not be on this side of the clouds too, right? Instead, what you're going to start seeing is you're going to start painting with your darks, okay? So, like in Emma, there's the latest part that just came out. The sun is setting behind the clouds, so naturally when I want to start adding them in, I'll start painting the shadows of the clouds, right, like this. The clouds then become painted like this, right? So let's take those same shapes and just paint over them. So you're going to end up with something more like this. Whereas if your light is in front of them and they're far in the distance, then obviously you're going to start doing what we did today, and you'll paint with light. So, in conclusion, you should always paint. I mean, there's no right and wrong, because you have to decide where your light source is, and then paint from there. See? So now you can see, oh, okay, the clouds are here. So naturally, we would have our light coming from behind. And now the clouds are like that. And it looks kind of crappy, but I hope you can understand what I'm saying. Because of everything else here. There's all these other weird colors in here, so it looks kind of unnatural. But anyway, I was hoping to quickly explain that. Alrighty, people. Last question coming in from Vanilla Saggio. Are you going to make a video about color tones, like red and green? Color tones? I don't know exactly what you're talking about. So either I'm thinking that might be a more advanced course. There's something that I don't know exactly what you're trying to communicate. But if you're talking about color relativity, I did do something like that about red and green. And just how opposite colors in one piece will tend to make the other one look more vibrant. And it's a really, really cool episode. So if you guys search color relativity, you'll find something like that. You will find it. Seek and ye shall find. Alright guys, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and end episode 81 of the KNKL show. Thank you guys once again for joining me live on Ustream for our awesome artist tutorial. And yeah, tomorrow we're going to be resuming as usual. As far as what we're going to be doing tomorrow, it's going to be Whatever Wednesday. So yeah, since we just released Emma, I'll have to figure out exactly what we're going to do. But there will be a show. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Until then, you guys take care.